It's not come up with live. There we are. Ah, we are.
Hello, good evening everyone, and welcome to our Positive Minds modules. My name is Ozzie and I'm a psychological wellbeing practitioner currently working at Steps to Wellbeing, and this is my colleague.
Hi, my name is Julian and I'm an employment advisor and I work alongside the therapists.
Lovely. So before we start, we got a couple of housekeeping rules. So the first one is the webinar expectations. A webinar is kind of like a live presentation. We generally focus on, how we can manage our well-being and our depression and anxiety. And we'll talk through those slides every week. And we will go through booklets together as well. There might be a slight delay between the communications because of the webinar, the online connection. So please bear with us. If you write a question, we might get it in like 5-6 seconds. So if we can't answer straight away, just make sure be aware that we got delay on our communications. So we got questionnaires and attendance. So we send 2 emails each week. One email has got the web forms which you need to fill before webinar or after webinar, and the other email has a link to the slides which today is the positive mind, so you should be able to get that link to the slides and also the booklet as well, link to the booklet. So if you didn't get any questionnaires or if you didn't get any link or booklets, please do let us know and then we can send you again. The questionnaires, we check the attendance with the questionnaires, so please make sure you complete those questionnaires even if you attend. But if you don't do the questionnaires, we will assume that you didn't attend, so we might have to give you a call during the week just to check in if you want to continue or not. So if you are watching us, please make sure you complete the questionnaires either before the session or after the session straight away, because tomorrow I will be checking again last time before I contact therapists to contact you, if you didn't do the questionnaires. So the next one is the messages. We got question and answer boxes open already. If you have any questions, if you want to share, obviously it's going to be a bit interactive. We will ask questions. If you want to share your opinions, please do message us using the question and answer box. Nobody can see your messages and you can't see any other people's messages. The only people is seeing the message is us, and then we just gonna answer your questions either in here or privately. So please feel free to message us. And the next one is the booklets. As I said, we send the email to you and then you get link to booklets as well as with link to the slides. So you can access booklets there. If you didn't get any booklets, any link, or if you want to hard copy, just please let us know again, message us, and then we can send you either online version or the hard copy as well. And lastly, if you can't make a session, please give us a call either on Southampton. If you're in Southampton area, call Southampton number, and if you're in around Dorset, call Dorset as well. So they are the numbers you can call and let us know that you're not going to be able to make a session. So can we just get a little bit message from people, because I'm not sure if they are.
Just let us know you're out there. Give us a ping, give us a smiley.
Just say hello or anything, so we can see actually there is someone there listening to us.
You can sense that our anxiety is climbing a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like I'm talking to someone, like there's no one there. Okay, so safety and well-being. So this is obviously due to webinar, we're not gonna able to check in with you individually. So if you ever notice, my mood is decreasing, I feel horrible, hospital, you know, or if you feel like, you know, you're at risk to yourself, please, you know, call your GP. You can make an emergency appointment with your GP. And Samaritans is the another options. And NHS 111 999, and if it is emergency, obviously. So people
Brilliant.
saying hi. So
That's
yeah,
good.
one person is here.
We feel much better now.
Oh yeah, there's lots of people listening, so that's really good. Thank you.
Hi, guys.
So yeah, the GP, Samaritans, NHS, and also the last one is the retreat, which is in Bournemouth. It's a crisis, you know, service. So you can actually, you know, go online and write retreat, and it gives all the information there as well. If you feel like, you know, any decline in your mood, just please, you know, contact those numbers. And yeah, someone's this first session. Hello. That's good. Hopefully you will enjoy your first session. So today, for plan for the session, it's a positive mind. So we will have a look at kind of like unhelpful thinking patterns and their role in our mood, and you know, how does it affect, you know, how like make it like low mood or anxiety. So we're just going to have a talk about those unhelpful thinking patterns, and we're going to look at the strategies how to challenge those negative thinking, and we'll talk about worry a little bit and explore different type of worries, and then we will have a look at the strategies as well, you know, how we can reduce, how we can manage those worries. So that's our session. So let's start with the typical, you know, introduction to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. That's what we use in our service. So basically with CBT focus on 4 things. So thoughts, physical symptoms, emotions, and behavior. So this is the 4 important area that, you know, with CBT, you know, we work on. So there is always a situation, there's always trigger that, you know, actually, you know, affect our thoughts, behaviors, and our emotions, and also it helps us, you know, to, you know, experience those physical symptoms as well. So we got how long does the session last? Well, one of our patients asked how long the session lasts. It's normally we say 2 hours, but we normally manage to finish like 1 hour 15 minutes. So, you know, maximum 1 hour and 30 minutes, you know, will be done hopefully. So let's have a look at this CBT cycle. So we got situation. So please feel free to message us, you know, what you're thinking, and while we discuss with Julian between us. So it's a Monday morning, and you received an email from your manager asking you to come and see them in their office at 4:30 later on that day. So I'm sure, you know, most people, you know, experience those kind of situation. So when you have those situations, what's going through your minds? Let's focus on, first of all, the thoughts a little bit, and then we will move on to the physical symptoms, emotions, and behaviors. So what would you be thinking, you know, what thoughts you would be having if you have if you're in this situation? So please feel free to message us about your thoughts. So let's talk about it a bit between us while waiting. So what would you be thinking then, you know, if you're in that situation, Julian?
So I'd be feeling a little bit annoyed that I've got this request to go and attend a meeting quite late in the afternoon. I might be getting quite close to going home time. I don't really want to be kind of dealing with that. So yeah, a little bit anxious, a little bit annoyed. What's going on? Have I done something wrong?
Yeah.
Have I missed something? Have I forgotten a deadline?
Yeah.
And that might kind of take me to a place of thinking, you know, where's my to-do list? What's in my diary? Have I done all those bits and pieces? So sometimes that kind of thing makes me start to second guess myself. Up to that point, I'll probably be thinking, I'm on track, I'm ready to go home, you know, that's all okay. And then, oh, hang on, what have I missed? What have I forgotten? So yeah, those kind of thoughts, really, the kind of things. So probably more around worry than feeling optimistic. Because it's, to my mind, it's not the kind of...
it's like, you know, if your manager contacts you, it's like, oh, there's something wrong, I did something wrong, you know, or the first thing come to my mind, oh my God, they're gonna sack me, or I'm gonna lose my job. It's all negative things. So we got a couple of answers saying that what have I done wrong. That's the most common thoughts people having. I would be worrying about what I done wrong again, and means you are getting fired, so instant anxiety, what I have done wrong. So usual common things. If our manager asks you, okay, come and see me in my office in the evening, so straight away we have those thoughts. Oh, I did something wrong, I'm going to lose my job, someone is going to fire me, and stuff like that. So it's really common thoughts.
I think when there's no kind of context for the meeting, because you've received it in the morning, it's probably going to impact adversely on the rest of the day, because that's going to become, for me, that's going to become the preoccupying thought. Why have I got to go to a meeting? I don't know what it is.
It will distract your day as well. So similar things. So what about physical symptoms, guys? So what kind of physical symptoms or changes in your body you're feeling when you are in that situation? Your boss call you, and is there any heart palpitations or anxiety or sweating? What kind of physical symptoms you're experiencing? Just message us again so we can read it. I would have a really heart rate, really heart palpitations.
Sweaty palms, definitely.
Feeling hot.
And I think it kind of slightly going back to thoughts. It kind of takes me back to perhaps a previous incident where that kind of thing might have happened, and kind of maybe recording some of the kind of thoughts were there. So and I think just feeling like you need to go to the toilet is something that I've experienced in the past.
Headaches, someone says headaches, stress. Because when you are feeling stress and start getting anxious, the headache, tension headache, is the most common things as well. And either a dry mouth because you're getting anxious and your body give you those physical symptoms to you, or shaking, it could be another symptom. And start to shake, feeling hot, little bit sick, can't relax, busy mind, as you said, it just takes over your day and you just think about constantly. Lightheaded, and my breathing is altered, because when you feel anxious, you're gonna start breathing really fast, because, and then your heart is gonna pump lots of blood, all your muscles, and then obviously your breathing is gonna be shallow, and it's just gonna affect all your symptoms in your body. Sweating, dizzy, heart beating fast, feeling sick. These are the most common things. So what about emotions then? What kind of emotions would you be feeling when you're in this situation? What would you feel, Julian?
Certainly kind of feeling a bit anxious, a bit worried about the potential consequences of the meeting. Perhaps starting to think, okay, does this mean that I'm going to have to change my plans for the rest of the evening? Are there long-term implications that are going to come out of that? So in my experience, my thinking tends to become negative rather than positive. So I'm not thinking optimistically. I'm more inclined to be thinking, oh, what have I missed? What have I done? So that worried, anxious about the meeting.
I mean, someone says, tearful, that could be, another emotions, verge of crying, worried, anxious. And also, you know, like some people might feel curious because if you don't think about not negatively, so oh, my boss calling me, so you know, I'm a bit curious, you know, what's going on? Maybe, you know, I got promotion, maybe I did something really good, so my boss is gonna like come and talk to me. You know, it depends how you look at the situation, really. So if you look at kind of like really negative way, then you're gonna have those, you know, negative emotions. But if you think about, oh, okay, you know, I'm curious, maybe I did something good, then definitely, you know, you're just gonna feel a bit brighter than, you know, feeling anxious. So it's all kind of like that cycle, as you can see on the slides as well. It just, you know, there's arrows and it affects each other. They feed each other constantly, because the way you think is gonna affect the way you felt and the way you behave, and also the way you behave is gonna have an effect on your thoughts and emotions as well. So some people say sad, fear, worry, anxious. So yeah, they are the, you know, could be, you know, symptoms, you know, the emotions. And what about behavior? If you look at the last corner at the bottom, so what kind of behaviors would you be doing, you know, when you are in that situation? What would you be doing?
Oh, it'd be very easy to fall into wanting to be alone. And just kind of immerse yourself in your thoughts, not want to engage with other people.
Yeah.
There could be an element of avoidance happening, so you might look for reasons not to go. So it might be around finding other things, rescheduling your diary, perhaps trying to find somebody else to do work with, as a way of distracting yourself from those thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. Like, as you said, you know, I would avoid probably, you know, having eye contact with the boss because I know there's something wrong. So that could be the things I would do. Or like in my mind, it's busy, you know, I'm thinking, oh, I did something wrong, what's going to happen? Am I going to lose my job? And then obviously I'm not going to be able to complete my task, or I'm not going to be able to work efficiently. So it's just affect all, you know, everything.
Might be some inclination to find somebody to talk to. So just to kind of go and try and kind of offload. So it might be seeking somebody's company and wanting to, you know, kind of share that burden.
Yeah. And a couple of people says, you know, quiet around others, as you said. Yeah, kind of, because you are busy within yourself, you just don't want to interact with other people. Distracted, you know, you can't really focus on anything and won't be able to do anything, speak, read, or think. Jittery, quiet. And someone says it like worry about, you know, like obviously about the meeting, spend so much time and energy about that meeting, but after the meeting, if it was nothing I had to worry about, and I would feel fed up, because you basically, you know, waste all your day worrying about things, and then at the end, you know, there's nothing wrong. So it is really frustrating as well. So yeah, so thank you very much for all the replies, guys. It's been lovely, you know, to see what other people, you know, experience. So it's really good to, you know, actually understand. So what we can do now, let's move on. I mean, this is the CBT technique. I mean, we always focus on these 4 things. As I said, they create a vicious cycle, and it affects, you know, there's always trigger, and that trigger affects our thoughts, physical symptoms, emotions, and behaviors. So we need to be aware of that cycle so we can actually, you know, do something about that. Okay, so let's have a look on helpful thinking style. So it's on your booklet, page 6. There's lots of things there. We will go through together in a bit. You know, we will talk about a couple of them. So on helpful thinking style, so the way we think has a huge impact on the way we feel, as I said, on that CBT cycle. So we have all those thoughts all the time. You know, just before the session, we read something with Julian, 40,000 thoughts.
40,000 thoughts in a day, yeah.
Yeah, like basically, in a day, every person has got like at least 40,000, thoughts going through their mind. And basically, we have all those thoughts, constantly. We might be aware of them sometimes, and most of them also go through our minds, and we just pay little attention to them. We just, forget. But when we feel quite anxious, when we feel quite depressed, those, unhelpful thinking style becomes more frequent. And the more you believe that, and the more you accept those negative thoughts, the worse actually, you are likely to feel. So you start seeing everything in a negative way. So it's actually, it's, how we think about the situation is gonna have an effect on your, on your feelings and on your behaviors as well. So, we got a couple of questions there. So yeah, one of our patients says, what about if you don't know the trigger? You don't need to know the trigger. Trigger is there just to, cause you to have those four, the area, which is the thoughts, emotion, behaviors, and physical symptoms. So trigger could be anything, it could be you don't even realize sometimes trigger, but the way you feel emotions, you will know that there is something wrong. So as soon as you feel kind of like low or depressed or anxious, you just gotta step back and actually like think about it. Okay, what just happened? Why am I feeling like this way? So then you might be able to find the trigger easy. It's just all about actually practicing those skills. We will talk about a little bit later, how we can actually challenge those thoughts, those emotions whenever we feel depressed or anxious. So you don't need to know the trigger, but if you want to know the trigger, it's the best way. Just step back when you start feeling depressed or anxious and just think about what just happened. Why am I feeling sad? Why am I feeling anxious? And then you will be able to track back, what happened.
Yeah,
so
if you think about 40,000 thoughts in the course of a day, you're not aware of the fact you've had 40,000 thoughts. So a lot of that is happening kind of subconsciously.
Yeah.
But there could be a trigger in there, and you become aware of it because of the way you are impacted on some part of that 5-area model.
Yeah, exactly. So the next slide, so unhelpful thinking. So we already, touch on those. A person's moods, such as like sadness, worry, are linked to the unhelpful ways of thinking. So if you have those negative thoughts, it will make you sad, it will make you worry. So it will have an effect on your moods. And many of those thoughts are unhelpful. We call this unhelpful, or you can call negative thoughts as well. And also, they are automatic. Okay, so they come really quick to your mind. Sometimes you can't even touch, like catch them, and they are really real to you at that time, and you feel like you believe those negative thoughts. That's why sometimes we call negative automatic thoughts, which is NATs. So basically it is negative and it is automatic thoughts, and it just comes really quick to your mind. So whether whichever you prefer, you can call it. So, and as I said, these thoughts are really there to actually maintain your low moods or your anxiety or your worries. So as I said, page 6, you got lots of unhelpful thinking styles. We don't have that much time. We will, have a look only like 4 of them now. We're just going to go through together. But if you want more information, you can go to your, booklet, page 6. There's plenty there, lots of unhelpful thinking styles. So most common ones, let's have a look at jumping to conclusion. So jumping to conclusion, we always assume we know what other people is thinking, which is like generally negative things. So there is 2 types actually, jumping to conclusion, which is mind reading and fortune telling. So mind reading, again, imagining we know what other people are thinking. And fortune telling is predicting the future. So if we can give an example for mind reading, so for example, they must be laughing at me. I can't see you, but I'm just thinking about, those patients are laughing at me now, which I'm kind of like mind reading. I don't know if they are really doing, but I am actually, imagining. I know, what you guys are thinking. And fortune telling, it could be, I'm going to fail, on this exam, definitely. Or if you go for a date, you're just gonna, my date is not gonna turn up. You're just kind of like fortune telling. You don't know whether it's gonna turn up or not, but you just, think about it. And mind reading again, I can tell, you think that I'm stupid. I'm just reading your mind. So it's really common thing. So have you got kind of like, those conclusions? Do you jump to the conclusion sometimes?
Yeah, it's an easy thing to do. I think for me, so I've done a lot of recruitment, and one of the unhelpful things now is to think that people won't turn up for an interview, and that's really annoying, because what that tends to do then is that I think they're not going to turn up, so I start to think about doing something else. And when they do turn up, I'm in the wrong frame of mind for doing the interview. So that's an element of kind of fortune telling, really.
Yeah.
And things like trying to get the car through an MOT. Is it going to get through there? What's the list of things that don't pass going to look like? And since they've changed the MOT criteria since the last time I had the car MOT, when I read that, it was another one of, okay, what's the impact of that going to be? Will the car get through? Is that going to cost me more money?
Yeah.
Or even putting the car up for service? This is going to cost me lots of money, because your thinking style is something is going to be wrong.
Yeah.
So those kind of things are things that I've experienced.
Yeah, definitely. So the second one, let's have a look at magnification and minimization. So what that means is kind of like blowing things out of proportion, or inappropriately like shrinking something that make it seem less important. So for example, again, when you start cooking apple pie, we saw that example again, and someone is start cooking apple pie, and she burned the apple pie, and she's straight away thinking that, I'm the worst cook in the world, I'm a rubbish person, I can't even cook anything. So even kind of like a really small things, we just burn the apple pie, but you just assume that you are the worst person, or you are the worst cook ever in this world. So it's kind of like making things bigger. Or could be, for example, it could be in our jobs, sending wrong letter to the patient or client, and then you just suddenly think about, okay, I send a wrong letter, so I will lose my job, and then I will not earn enough money, and then I will be homeless. Like really, really like extreme thinking, even like a really small thing, you just make it the worst case scenario. So next one is should and must. Another common things that people have, basically, when you use those words like should, must, can make us feel guilty, or can make us feel like, we actually failed. So, for example, I should be feeling better by now, or I should be a good mom, I should be better than this. Stuff like that. It just makes you straight away like guilty, and it makes you like really rubbish, isn't it? Like when you think about, or I must be doing this perfectly, thinking about like really extreme again. So yeah, should, must, again, we need to be aware of that, it make us feel a bit guilty and a bit like a failure. The next one is all or nothing thinking. which is sometimes we call this black and white thinking. So you don't see the gray area. As you can see, there's like a cross on there on the gray area. So either you think about the black or white. So for example, if you get 80% on a test, and you feel like a failure because you didn't do perfectly. Okay, so if I'm not perfect, then you know, oh, I'm a rubbish person or I have failed. So you just don't see, you know, that middle things. Oh, okay, you know, I actually, you know, got 80% on the test, but it's not perfect, but I'm actually, you know, I did good. Instead of saying that, it's like, oh, because, you know, I didn't do perfectly, so that means I failed. So it's like black and white, really extreme, you know, either that or that. So they are the most common unhelpful thinking styles. So if you want, as I said, you know, more information is on your page 6 on the booklet. There are plenty more that you can have a look, and you can actually recognize, you know, some of the things you're using on there. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna have a look thought challenging, which is on your booklet, page 9. So that's a specific techniques for us to be able to challenge our negative thoughts. We call this cognitive restructuring. So what we do basically, there are 3 stages on this cognitive restructuring. So which is one of them, the first one is we have to identify the thoughts first of all. What's going through your mind? What are you thinking right now? Okay. And then what we need to do, we need to look into those thoughts, really investigate. And then last step, we need to challenge those thoughts. So what we do basically with this technique, we kind of like make them more realistic by shifting from negative towards more positive and more kind of like a stable state. So it's kind of like, you know, instead of thinking negatively, we try to switch our, you know, thought process to the more positive one, and kind of like, you know, more realistic. We're gonna make those more realistic. So that's the cognitive restructuring. So let's have a look step by step, you know, how we do cognitive restructuring. So the first step is obviously we give our patients that chart, which is you got on your booklet, page 11 and 12. So that's the, you know, worksheet you need to use when you challenge your thoughts. So the first step, this page, which is, you know, a situation, feeling, and thoughts. So what we do basically, we record specific situation where you felt like a certain emotions, okay? And, you know, as I said, you know, we said, you know, there's always triggers, but you just need to, you don't always know there is a trigger, but you actually, if you know, identify your emotions, okay, I'm feeling like this way, then you are more likely to find, you know, that trigger. Okay, you know, I thought that's why, you know, I'm feeling like this way. It's easy to find out. So that's why we want to we want you to write it down, a situation where you felt like a certain emotions. Could be, you know, when you are sitting and watching TV, you might have, you know, like really sad, or you might feel a bit down, and then just, you know, write it down, that situation. Okay, I'm sitting on my sofa watching TV. And the second column, you need to write it down, the feeling. Okay, you need to rate that feeling, what feelings you are experiencing. If it is feeling sad, down, depressed, write it down on the second column, and then basically, you know, rate it between 0 to 100. So 0 is there is no, you know, depression or anxiety or upset, there's nothing there. 100, you are strongly experiencing that emotion, so it's really strong. So rate that, and then what we do next step, which is the third column, we're gonna write the thoughts that we're having at that moment, you know, when you felt that emotion. So when you start feeling quite low, you just need to write it down. Okay, I'm feeling low. What am I thinking right now? What's going through my mind? You know, there's so many things going on. As we said, you know, 40,000 a day, you know, we have those thoughts. the important thing, we just need to try to catch a couple of them, okay? So if you felt the emotion, step back and think about, okay, why am I feeling sad? What's going through my mind? And then just write it down on the third column. And obviously, again, we rating again. So rating is really important because at the end of the last step, we're just gonna rate again and see the change. So we're gonna rate the strength of belief. How much do you believe that specific negative thoughts? So if you feel like I can't do anything right, I'm a rubbish person, how much do you believe that? Okay, between 0 to 100. So again, 0, you don't believe at all. 100, you are feeling literally like you are believing so much that that sentence is true. Let the thing formal of the documents correct. I don't have this column.
Okay. So they should hopefully be able to, somebody's just talking about where their device has formatted the page. Hopefully in the booklet it should.
Yeah, the booklet should be. I have had an error in printing of my booklets. With the session without the booklet. Yeah, you can carry on the session without the booklet. I mean, it's basically, I'm just going through those things with the slices, but later on you can, print your booklet again and then just read it and refresh your memory. So it doesn't matter, you don't need to have your booklet. And hopefully, with, I don't know, with the Chrome, Google laptop, maybe because of the format, you don't see that column, but maybe you can try different.
Yeah, hopefully so. When you print it, it might
print
differently. It may just be the way that it's presenting itself on the screen for you.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the, we're gonna write and we're gonna rate our beliefs. So, and then the strongest belief and, causing the most distress, we call this hot thoughts, okay? Which is, we will have a go here. So basically, hot thought is the strongest belief and causing you the most distress. So if you have a belief that, I'm a rubbish person and I believe that 80%, and if you have another thought, I can't do anything right, and that is 90%, so I can't do anything right is the strongest belief. So we will take that as a hot thought because we can't challenge, all the thoughts in one go. That's why we need to identify which one is causing you the most distress. Okay. As we said, you will have more than one thought for specific situations, but the important thing is try to catch and try to rate it and which one is the strongest belief and which one causing you the most distress. That will be the one that we're gonna work on. Okay, and so and it says there, we normally, if you believe like 30% or 20% is not really high, so we recommend at least, if you believe 60%, that will cause you the distress. So if it is 60 or above, you can have a look, which one is the highest, and you can choose the hot thoughts according to that. So the next step is the looking for evidences, which is, we got 2 columns on there. After, you figure out the situation, figure out your thoughts and your emotions, you will move on to this column, which is we're gonna look for evidences. So we're gonna list all the evidences for and against for the specific hot thoughts. And I think on the next slide it explains more. Okay, yeah. So how we're gonna do this, evidences, how we're gonna find out those evidences? We're gonna take this, imagine, you take this hot thought to the court. So when you are in the court, obviously you're not gonna lie to people, you're not gonna give your emotions. It needs to be factual, okay? You need to give the facts. So when you are trying to find the evidence for and evidence against, it needs to be facts, okay? We don't include emotions, we don't include any other things, okay? It needs to be factual evidences we need to find. And sometimes it is difficult to find people, if you have negative thoughts, people more likely, find evidence for easily because actually they believe that. So, for example, if you say, I can't do anything right, if I ask you guys, you might be able to find lots of things, evidence for, oh yeah, I can't really cook, or I can't fix anything, or anything like that, any negative thing, because you already believe that thought. But the important things we need to figure out, how we're gonna look for evidence against. Okay, so there are a couple of questions there. Actually, that might be helpful for you. So what you need to do, just think about, how would someone else think about this if you have that thought, or when you rate your belief, if it is 70%, so there is always 20% of that thoughts that you don't even believe that is true. So what makes up that 20%? Think about like this way: if you're struggling to find evidences, or if you are not depressed, would you still believe that thoughts? Because when you are feeling depressed, anxious, that feeds the negative thoughts and you believe more. Or, if you're talking to your friends, as we spoke early on, the friends are the best things because they can actually tell you. If you say to your friend, oh, I'm a rubbish person, I'm a rubbish friend, what would you say? And then your friend will be able to give more evidences. No, you actually, really nice friend, you listen people, you help people, you can use those evidences. So if you ever struggle, try to find evidences to challenge your thoughts. Have a look at those questions. And I think
If you think about cooking, for instance,
yeah,
people might say, I can't cook. So that's actually a very broad statement. The more specific you can get your thinking, the easier it is to challenge thoughts. So saying I can't cook, very broad. If you say I can't cook,
I can't cook spaghetti.
I was going to say, if you say I can't cook beef Wellington, okay, fair enough. So turn around and then say, what can I cook? Okay, well, I can do beans on toast.
Yeah.
I can do eggs on toast. I can do scrambled eggs. I can do poached eggs. I can do boiled eggs. I can cook vegetables. I can cook potatoes. I can cook carrots. I can cook broccoli. I can cook chicken.
Yeah.
So
many things.
Start to be more as specific as you can, because that's a really great way to start to challenge that negative thought. So yes, you might not be able to cook beef Wellington. I'm not sure I can cook beef Wellington, but I can cook some of the other things that I've given as examples, and that's the way of challenging that. I can't cook to I can't cook specific things, but I can cook other things.
Yeah, exactly. It's really good way of looking at things as well. So just instead of, as we said, like black and white thinking, isn't it? If you become like more broad, you're not gonna able to see the small things that you're actually doing. So it is really good, the way of thinking. So yeah, you can use that. You can use those questions if you're struggling, to looking for evidences. So what we do, we have a look at the evidence. We collect as many as we can. Okay, evidence for and evidence against. And the next step, which is the last step, what we do once the evidence has been collected, what we need to do, we need to use those evidences and we're gonna try to create a new balanced thoughts. Okay, so we're just gonna come up with the kind of like more like alternative thoughts based on what evidence we collected. So we're not ignoring the negative thoughts totally, but we look at the evidences and we're just gonna actually revise the thoughts again. So column 5, what you do, you write any new thoughts. Okay, so for example, as you said, I can't cook anything. Yeah, and then when you revise your thought, I actually cook scrambled egg, and then rate how much you believe them on a scale of 0 to 100 again, okay? So you can say kind of like revised thought, okay, I can't cook anything, but I actually can cook scrambled egg. So it's kind of like, you know, instead of really thinking negatively, you are using the evidences you found and then try to create kind of like a balanced thought. And we rate that thought, how much you believe on a scale between 0 to 100. And column 6, the last column, what you need to write it down. Write down the original feelings you had in column 2, which is here. Column 2, you know, what emotions you felt in that situation. So you need to write that emotion on the column 6. And then you just need to, you know, rewrite the strength again using the 0-100 scale. Okay, so are you actually, you know, when you look at your revised thought, are you actually feeling that emotion that's strong? So if you're feeling at the beginning 90%, if you believe that, you know, actually, you know, I'm feeling that emotion 90%, when you have those revised thoughts, when you try to, you know, create a balanced thought, do you actually still feel 90%, or are you feeling less? So if you're feeling less, for example, 85%, you're feeling a bit better, then that means, you know, you are making the, you know, process that, changing your thought process. So that's how cognitive restructuring work. So basically, you know, you just need to do like practice and practice, because it is difficult at the beginning to try to catch that and try to find the evidences and stuff. But the more you do it, the more it's gonna get easier. And also there is, I actually found out a couple of days ago, there is an app, I think called Cognitive. Let me see. Oh yeah, it called Thought Diary. So if you got kind of like a smartphone, you can download that app, which is Thought Diary, and it's exactly the same step is on your phone. So you can do on your phone, you can practice on your phone, write it down. There is, you know, all those negative thoughts we talk about, you know, the common ones, they are there as well. You can actually select which one you're thinking. So it is really good app if you would like to have a go and try. And it calls Thought Diary, so you can download that. So let's have a look at little bit example, and then we'll move on to do a worry, and we're going to talk about little bit worries. So we got Jane here. So Jane sees her friend Barbara walking along the other side of the road, and she waits, but Barbara doesn't respond. So Jane immediately thinks that, you know, oh, Barbara doesn't like me anymore. She's ignoring me. You know, I must have done something to upset her. Or, you know, I never really had many friends. I guess I am just not very likable. So that sentences in a red is the most distressing thought for Jane. So which is, you know, that's the hot thought for Jane. And I'm sure, you know, everybody experienced this kind of, you know, situation. I personally experienced this, and I straight away think about the negative things, which I was wrong at the end, because basically she didn't see me. But I was like, you know, thinking about all the negative things. So when you want to challenge these thoughts, what you need to do, take the, you know, red one, I am not very likable. And obviously we don't know Jane, but they give us a kind of like evidences there. So Jade generally gets on well with her work colleagues. And Barbara saw Jane last week for a coffee though, so they actually meet up last week. But in that situation, Jane doesn't see that, because she is really, you know, like focusing on the negative thoughts. She doesn't even remember that she saw, you know, Barbara last week. Another, you know, evidences, you know, of Jane's evidences is I'm not good at talking to people I don't know, which, you know, she can use that evidence for. And Barbara shared she was stressed with work when they met up last week. So it could be lots of reasons, you know. Barbara is stressed, that's why she didn't see Jane, you know, she's busy with her, you know, in her own thoughts. Or look at the other evidences. Jane is really good with the friends, work colleagues. She gets on really well. And actually, Barbara and Jane is in contact. They see each other for a coffee or for a dinner. So it's all about finding those evidences and trying to create more balanced thought instead of thinking I'm not very likable. You can say oh, okay, Barbara didn't I waved to her, she didn't respond to me. Maybe she didn't see me, or maybe she's stressed, she didn't really acknowledge me, or I already saw Barbara last week, so she doesn't need to wave to me, thinking about like more positive, more balanced way. And when you do that, when you rate your belief and your emotion again, you will see that it will drop and you will feel a bit better. And then the more you do it, the more it's going to get easier for you. So have a try. You got the booklet, read it, and remember the steps, and try to use those techniques whenever you have negative thoughts come to your mind. Just write it down. Just use your phone on the app and try to practice, and then practice makes it perfect, and then you will get used to it. And then the more you do it, you will realize that at the end of the like maybe couple of months, or depends on the people really, you will see that you don't need to write it down. You just do it in your mind straight away, because you will be able to catch that thought and then, okay, what's the evidence for, what's the evidence against, how can I do that as a more balanced way, done, and then you will see the difference. So let's have a look at little bit worry. So we got another CBD cycle here. So we got the situation there. Notice noise coming from car whilst you are driving. So when you have a look at, again, if you want to share your opinions, just give us a message, write it down, we can read it. So we're gonna have a look at, again, same way, the 4 area: thoughts, physical symptoms, emotions, and behavior. So let's talk about with Julian, and then if you can comment, if you want to write something, just write. How would you feel? How would you think? And how would you behave? And what kind of physical symptoms you might be experiencing when you have that situation? You are in the car driving and you notice a noise coming from your car. So, what would you say, Julian?
Probably thinking that's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
Could be thoughts that it might be a small thing, like a screw that's come a little bit loose, but it's buried right deep in behind like the center console, and it's going to take hours to take it out, and it's beyond my ability to sort it out.
Yeah.
So it's got to go to the garage, and the garage is going to cost £20 an hour, £30 an hour. For somebody to take everything apart, it's going to take them hours, and it's going to cost me a lot of money. Is it going to break before I get to where I'm trying to get to? And I'm going to be stranded on the side of the road?
Yeah.
Does that mean I've got to call out a breakdown service? Is my breakdown service up to date?
Yeah, all the worries.
Or has it cancelled? Could be things around, is it dangerous? Do I actually need to stop the car now and park up because it's too risky to drive, because I'm not a mechanic, so I don't know what the problem is. Is a wheel going to roll off the car? If the car breaks down, am I going to be causing a traffic jam? Do I want to be causing a traffic jam? No.
Yeah, so many things, yeah. As you said, like the people, as how much is going to cost, like here, or I'm going to crash, or think about the worst immediately. How am I going to pick up my kids without a car? That's an important thing, isn't it?
Am I going to be late to work?
Yeah, exactly. Ignore it as if I think about it might think the worst, crashing or breakdown. Basically, those kind of things obviously going through your mind, or I was stuck in a motorway, I'm gonna have a crash, I'm gonna be late for work, how much it's gonna cost, those kind of things straight away come to our minds. And obviously, as a physical symptoms, again, we experience those anxiety symptoms, which is kind of like, I might be scared, I might be feeling anxious, nervous, or I might fear, those kind of things, like all the general, anxieties, symptoms you might be experiencing. And what about like what would you be doing, when you have those situations, like as a behavior?
Oh, I might become much more attuned to the noise in the car. So I might start really trying to listen, and start looking around. Can I see something that's loose? I might reach for the glove box and have a kind of feel around. Is there something rattling in there, which is going to be the cause of it? I might start trying to think, or look for, is there something on the floor? So I can imagine I might become distracted and not concentrate on where I'm driving. So
and not have an accident.
And have an accident. So quite a few things.
And the more you focus on that noise, the more it's going to get annoying, and then the more it's going to distract you, and then you will hear that voice every time. So it's kind of like, focusing on your, for example, toe. The more you focus, the more you're going to feel the pain. So it's all like, those kind of behaviors.
So I might be looking around for somewhere to park, to pull over, to get off the road. But, can I, where can I go? That might become part of the behaviours that I'm experiencing.
Call someone, ask for help. And again, like physical symptoms, how would you feel in your body? Would you have like heart palpitations or?
Yeah, quite likely. Certainly, you've got the sweaty palms. If I'm thinking about the fact that this is going to be something that's going to cost money, and then thinking about what are the bills have I got going out. Is that going to impact on the amount of money that's in my current account? So that's kind of creating lots of worries, and some of those worries are things I can't deal with right now. So they're just kind of going round and round in my mind, and that's kind of feeding into that kind of anxiety that I've got. That I can't sort it out at the moment.
So these are the things that people might experience when they're in that situation. So again, those 4 things affecting each other, constantly feeding. The more you think that, something wrong with my car, I'm gonna have a crash, or I will stuck in the motorway, you will experience those physical symptoms, changes in your body, heart palpitations, sweating, shaking, sweaty palms, and then you will have those emotions, you're gonna feel anxious, you're gonna feel worried, and you're gonna feel nervous, and then as a behavior, you're just gonna do those behaviors, checking the things, stopping, asking for help, those all 4 things again, create a massive cycle. So what we need to do, we just need to break that cycle, which we're gonna have a look at some techniques. So with the worry, how we learn to manage our worries, we use worry diary. So basically, I think it's on page 14. You got a worry diary. So what we do, first of all, we need to identify what kind of worries we're having, because there are 2 different worry, which we're going to talk about in a bit. So again, we need to write a situation. So where were you? What were you doing? And what was going on around you? Okay, if you are driving, write it down. While I'm driving, I heard a noise. Okay, so that's your situation. And then what we're gonna write it down, next one, your worries. So what kind of worries come to your mind? Okay, so we can actually, have a thing. Okay, when you are driving, you heard the noise. So what's your worry? Oh, I'm worrying about something wrong with my car. What if it breaks down? Or what if I have an accident? Or what if I stuck in the motorway and I can't get any help? Any worries that's going through your mind at that point, just write it down there, okay? Or what if I'm gonna be late for work? What if I can't pick up my children? Anything like that. Just record those actual thoughts going through your mind. And then the last one is, how anxious do you feel? Between 0 to 10 again. We're gonna rate. So 0, you don't feel anxious at all. 10, you are feeling the most anxious you ever been. So if you are feeling really anxious, just put 10, and if you're feeling, you know, moderate, just put 5. Depends how anxious do you feel, or how anxious do you actually, to feel emotion, nervousness. So first of all, we're just going to record on our diary, okay? All the worries comes to your mind. And then next one, let's talk about a little bit classifying worries. As I said, we got 2 different worry. One of them is hypothetical worries, another one is practical worries. So hypothetical worry is the kind of like worries that you don't have any control over it. So basically, you can't really do anything about them. It's about the future. So imagine, your body is here, but your mind is in the future, thinking about what if this happened, what if that happened, what if I fail on this task, what if I'm late for work, what if something happened to my children. Nothing is happening right now, but your brain is there in the future already thinking about it. So we call those hypothetical worries, and it usually comes as what if form. And on the other side, there is practical worries, which is kind of like, the things you can actually solve. You can do something about that. So if there is something you can actually solve, you just, figure out the problem, find the solution and solve. You can actually control those worries. So we call them as practical worries. So it's 2 types. One of them you can't control at all, and another one you can actually have a control over it. Okay?
So think about like car breaking down.
Yeah.
A hypothetical worry could be, my car's going to break down next week.
Yeah.
We don't know that that's going to happen, but that's a hypothetical worry. My car has broken down. I need to sort out how I'm going to get to work to pick the children up. That becomes a practical worry, because you can do something about that. You can make steps to overcome that particular problem.
Exactly. Yeah, so basically, you're here, but you worry about like future. We don't know what's gonna happen. It might happen. If it happens, then it can become practical worries, then we can actually solve that problem.
I hope my hypothetical worry doesn't come true now.
Yeah.
I don't want my car to break down next week.
Yes, yeah, hopefully, finger crossed. We'll see. If it happens, then we will try to solve.
Yes.
Okay, so let's have a look at the worry 3. We got something called worry 3 here. So it's in your booklet, page 16. You got nicer one on the booklets if you want to have a look, because we couldn't fit it on the slides. It's too small. I prefer the one on your booklets, but it's exactly the same, literally. So what you do with the worry tree, so you classify your worries, because sometimes it's really difficult to understand when you start worrying about something. You don't know if it is hypothetical or practical. So what you do, basically, you notice the worry first of all. Okay, I'm worrying about something. So I am worrying about my car is gonna break down next week. Okay, so ask yourself, that's what I'm worrying about. Okay, and can I do something about that? Can you do something about that? You're worrying about your car might break down next week? You can't. Yeah. Then what you need to do, yes or no. Can I do something about it? If it is no, then what we're gonna do, we're gonna use worry time, which is, I'm gonna explain to you in a bit. And then you're just gonna focus off attention. You're gonna change your attention, and then you're gonna worry, and you're gonna delay the worry. And if there is something you can do about that, then we're going to use problem solving, which we will touch again, in the next minute. And then we're going to create the problem, we're going to create the solutions, and then we're going to solve the problem, and then worry is going to go. So it is really good technique, that worry tree, just to, identify which worry you're having, if it is hypothetical or practical. So you can practice that whenever you have the worry. So let's have a look at, first of all, worry time, which is for hypothetical worries. So we don't use that for practical ones, because you can't use it. So hypothetical worry, when you have any kind of like, what if this happened, what if that happened, you worry about future, you don't have any control over it, you use worry time. So what we do basically, we try to actually delay the amount of time, you know, you worry during the day. So you basically, you know, restrict the time. So what we need to do basically, first of all, we just need to kind of like set a specific time each day. So we usually say, you know, 20-30 minutes maximum, 30 minutes, but people do, you know, 15 minutes, it's okay. So you need to set time where you can sit down and focus on your worries. So that's going to be your worry time. So if it is 8 o'clock, say between 8 o'clock or between 8, quarter past 8 or 20 past 8. Okay, that will be your worry time. And then during the day, obviously, lots of worry, hypothetical worries is going to come to your mind. Write it down on a piece of paper, okay? Any worries comes to your mind, write it down, identify which one is hypothetical, which one is practical, and then obviously you will take those hypothetical worries to your worry time. So write it down as many as you can whenever it comes to your mind. And then once you write it down, put it away. We don't look during the day because we know that we got that time at the end of the day for us to worry. But as I said, you know, I forget to mention, it doesn't need to be, you know, in the evening. It could be in the morning. It's, you know yourself better. Whenever you have time, 15-20 minutes, set that time for your worry time. But make sure, you know, don't put it really close to your bedtime, because if if you are going to bed 10 o'clock and if you do your worry time 9 o'clock, then it's going to make you more anxious, and then you're not going to be able to sleep and it will disrupt your sleep. So make sure you allow yourself 2 hours before your bedtime. And yeah, and then write it down your worries, and then postpone your worries, because you know that you will come back to them in your worry time. So, and then later on, use kind of like attention focusing techniques, which we will talk about in a bit, such as like relaxation or any hobbies, just to try to switch your attention to somewhere else apart from your worries, away from your worry. Okay. And then once you come to the like your worry time, just have that paper, take that paper, read all those hypothetical worries, because you got 15 minutes to actually worry about those things, and try to reflect those worries, try to read it and say to yourself, okay, I worry about this worry in the morning, but is this worry still a worry for me at that point? What can I do? Is there anything I can do about it? If it happens, what would I be doing? Or instead of worrying during the day, what would be doing differently? What I could enjoy my life, I could do something different. Just reflect all those worries, okay? Allow yourself to worry about those worry in your worry time. And once you finish, again, use those attention focusing techniques and bring yourself to the present moment and away from your worries. And then when it comes to your mind, again, another worry, just write it down on a piece of paper, and then take it to your worry time, which is next day in the evening. There is another app I found.
There is.
Worry time,
Indeed.
which is Reach Out. So if you want to download, you can download again, and it's exactly the same step by step.
Yeah.
It explains to you, you can write it down on there, you can use it on your phone, and it gives you kind of like a notification as well, just to...
Yeah, I've used it. It does work.
Yeah.
And one of the really nice things is that once you put your worry into it, you can't see your worry until the time when you've agreed you're going to deal with them. So it kind of...
It locks it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very much, you put it in there, you forget about it, and then at the agreed time, you can then see what it is.
Yeah. So if you want to try Worry Time app, Worry Time, Reach Out. If you want to do a traditional pen and paper, you can use pen and paper. Practice that whenever you have hypothetical worries and see how it goes. So attention focus. So how are we gonna, I mean, you know, when you do the worry time, obviously once you write it down your worries, you need to bring yourself to the present moment and distract yourself from your worries. So there are a couple of, you know, techniques that you can actually use. First one is if using your five senses, which is, you know, see, hear, touch, smell, and taste. So basically, you know, what you need to do, you need to focus on, you know, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Really bring yourself to the present moment by using those senses, okay? For example, you know, I see a computer in front of me, I see papers, pen, telephone, mouse, you know, those kind of things. And what you're hearing, you know, I see people talking outside of the room. What can I touch? I can touch the desk. You know, really bring your attention by using those 5 senses. And the next one is mundane task focusing. So we do every day lots of tasks, but we can't really, you know, focus on those. We kind of like do like an autopilot. So what you do with that, you basically, you know, focusing on the task that you're doing. If you are doing washing up, just focusing on the bubbles, you know, focusing on the plates or forks, how many, you know, spoon you are washing up. Really, you know, like take yourself to that detail.
I was just thinking actually about making a cup of tea.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the difference between how we make a cup of tea in this country probably, which is tea bag in a mug, hot water,
Yeah.
take the bag out, put some milk in, sugar, drink. And then making a cup of tea in Japan, they have a tea ceremony. And there's a huge amount of reverence that goes into making a cup of tea. And there's a real appreciation about, you know, how has the water been boiled, what temperature has it got to, it's in a really nice kettle. You're then putting tea leaves into a container, you're putting the hot water in, you're allowing the tea to infuse for a particular period of time. You're then pouring it, you're actually watching how the water comes out of the spout of the teapot. You're watching how it changes shape as it goes from the spout into the vessel you're going to drink from. You're watching as it rises up through the drinking vessel, through the cup, and then there's a real ceremony about picking up the cup up and smelling the aroma that comes from the tea, and really savouring and thinking about where's this tea come from. So this tea has come, it's the leaf of the plants, therefore you're thinking about
really
growth.
Like take in, isn't it? Like...
So there's a huge amount of if you like, being present in the making of a cup of tea in a tea ceremony. So that's a very different thing to the way that I typically make a cup of tea.
Yeah, and also makes you realize, you know, when you do that, you don't actually worry about things because your brain is busy doing those things. It's just, you know, the worry doesn't come to your mind, so it's really good.
So my motivation for tea ceremony is using a teapot.
Yeah.
Because just the act, it slows down the way that you make a cup of tea. And you tend to have to wait then for the tea to brew in the teapot. So you're bringing yourself back to the present moment of actually making a cup of tea.
Yeah, making a cup of tea, perfect. The next one is mindfulness, which is, you know, we always recommend is use the guided mindfulness, because to do on your own is quite difficult. So some people struggle. So for example, Headspace, there is an app again you can download. There is like a mindfulness there. You can write on YouTube. There's plenty, you know, on the internet that you can actually find. If you write it down, guided mindfulness, there's lots of things comes up. Again, you know, increase your awareness and pay attention to the present moment as well. And next one is activity and exercise. Again, you know, kind of like, you know, doing the things that you enjoy to keep yourself busy, to keep you distracted, like cleaning. Some people find cleaning really distracting. Puzzles for me, I love puzzles, you know, doing puzzles. Every evening I do like 10-15 minutes puzzle. Coloring books, you know, stuff like that. Oh yeah, we got another suggestion there from our patients. Insight timer, I never heard about that. So yeah, you know, I'll have a look tonight. So I'm just gonna write it down here so I don't forget. Insight timer. So yeah, that could be useful as well. You know, there's plenty, you know, you can find, try and see, you know, whichever, you know, actually, you know, works out for you. And also the last one is progressive muscle relaxation, which is kind of like, you know, learn about between the difference between the relaxed muscle and also tense muscle. So kind of like, you know, you tense each muscles one by one, starting from your feet or from the top, and from hands, neck, shoulder, face, tummy, legs, and toes and everything. Basically, you just, you know, like really tense it for a couple of seconds and then just release it. We will talk about, you know, the relaxation methods in more details in other modules. There is a session that we actually, you know, talk about in more detail, so you will find it useful as well, that session. So these are the kind of like, you know, relaxation methods, and as I said, you know, you can go online and then you can actually, you know, just practice those and find the perfect one works for you. So the next one is problem solving. So we look at the worry time, which is for hypothetical worries. And now for the practical worries, we got problem solving, which I'm sure everybody does that without realizing. So if you come across with a problem, you actually, you know, think about, okay, how can I solve that problem? Find the solutions, try those solutions, and then just evaluate how did it go. And if it didn't go well, you choose a different one. So for example, you know, if you worry about, again, you know, the noise coming from our car, that can be a practical worries as well. Yes, you can think that, oh, okay, there is something wrong with my car, so what can I do? Actually define the problem, okay? And then figure out, you know, what are the options, what can you do about that? Good or bad, doesn't matter. I can throw my car away, I don't want it because there is, you know, noise coming from my car, you know, or I can ask someone, you know, to help me, or I can sell my car, or I can fix myself, you know, so many options. Doesn't matter if it is silly or not. Write it down, as many options as you can. Then you're just gonna go through those options one by one and see which one works for you, okay? You're gonna make a decision. So what is the best option for you that you can actually use? Okay, if you throw my car away, if you know, scrap my car, then I'm not gonna have a car, so I'm not gonna be able to go to work. So maybe that's not a good option. Maybe I can call someone instead, or I can take it to the garage and get it fixed. You know, those kind of things, like, you know, like look at the advantage and disadvantage and try to make a decision. And then once you find the best solution for yourself, try that solution, and then at the end evaluate. Did it actually worked? What went well? What didn't go well? So if it didn't work out, then go back to the solutions, choose another solution. That's why we want you to write it down, as many solutions, so you don't stuck. So if one solution doesn't work, you can go back and try another solution. And if it works, well done. What went well, just evaluate and then just move on, because you solved the problem, so you don't need to worry about it. So it is really basic, you know, really basic intervention problem solving. I'm sure most of people is doing without thinking, you know, in their head. So you can try that. If you come across with the practical worries, remember, you don't use those hypothetical worries because they don't have a solution, okay? You use problem solving for the worries that actually have a solution.
And every time you solve a problem, give yourself a pat on the back.
Yes, yeah.
And use that recognition that you can solve problems to help you to solve problems in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. You know, like, you know, wow, I done really well. I did this problem, you know, solve this problem, move on, you know, is, you know, good technique. So have a try again, guys, you know, see which one is useful for you, which one you find it useful, and give us a comment as well later, you know, in a couple of weeks, how it goes. So we come to the end of our sessions, and so let's summarize a little bit, what we've been talking. So we look at the unhelpful thinking patterns, and we talk about, jumping to conclusions. We talk about black and white thinking, and we talk about, what else we talk about? Black and white thinking. Jumping to conclusion.
Hypothetical and practical worries.
Hypothetical and practical worries we talk about. We learn the strategies, how we can challenge our negative thoughts, thought challenging, and we learn about strategies about worry time as well. For the hypothetical worries, and problem solving for practical worries. So learn about lots of techniques. It's all about now practicing those whenever you have negative thoughts or whenever you have worry. Just make sure you practice those skills and then see how it goes. And if you forget how to do it, there is information on your booklet as well. It explains step by step what you need to do. Have a look at that as well. For today, that's it. I hope that you enjoyed the session and learned lots of useful information. And next week, we're gonna have positive pressures. So we're gonna have a look at kind of like a stress and stuff. I'm not gonna be here next week because I'm on annual leave. So one of my colleagues is gonna run the modules with Stuart. And I'll see you in 2 weeks, and I hope you enjoyed this session. We're gonna keep the question and answers for 5 minutes open, so you can ask any questions if you got anything that you wanna ask or you wanna share, or any opinions, feedback. Just give us a message, and we can reply you. Apart from that, enjoy the rest of your evenings, guys.
Take care. Look after yourself.
Yeah, take care, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay, bye bye.
Ta-da.
Bye.